we've long since talked about the divide in Hollywood. Is it a masculine industry? Is it a feminine industry? Do men have an advantage? Certainly groups like the USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative would say that men have the advantage in Hollywood and that we need to do these inclusion programs so that we can even things out. Well, Netflix says differently. 60% of their catalog is led by women, and they've got a lot of statistics here, so let's get into it. So
64.6% of their films and 56.6% of the TV series on Netflix had girls or women as leads or co-leads.
Thoughts?
Interesting. Well, Daily Wire's outpacing them. That's like 100% female leads.
Yes.
But it's because like trying to push back on the idea that you can't have strong female leads.
Not done right? Like they don't actually do the characters right. So the statistics are really interesting. So 64% of films, 56% of TV led by women, and that's 60% total. And it seems to be this never-ending narrative that men are the ones that are constantly put ahead, that men are the ones that people are pushing to see, even though that they're saying that they're wrong. They're saying that we need to change this up and we need to put more women in these roles, oftentimes to the detriment of the stories they're telling, meaning that they're not telling, like we talk all the time, Mary, they're not telling female stories. They're telling the stories of men, but just making them female characters, which isn't really all that interesting.
That clip of Reese Witherspoon from The View where it's like viral on Stan Twitter now. They like put this in the replies where she's just like, women's stories matter. They just matter, okay? And then everyone's like, wow! Yes!
It's such slop. It's just feed them
it's
their
like,
slop.
what are you even saying? Women's stories matter?
Dude.
Like, I swear I don't have that much in common with all women on the globe.
Yeah. And like, what does that mean? What is the story you're talking about here? Now, there's the interesting ones, like Queen's Gambit was people would call an interesting story, or Inventing Anna. That's an interesting story
based on real women,
based on
Great story.
actual women. But when the other thing is like the 355, which is like a spy movie where they say we went out to make it 3 women and we gave them equal pay, and I'm just like, dude, nobody cares. Make a good movie. And Netflix is in the lead right here. It says in 2021, 26.9% of directors on Netflix films were women, compared to 12% from the year before. But that's not the only statistic. 35.8% of the leads are LGBTQIA+. 45% was the number the year before.
I know that LGBTQ is not 35% of the population.
That is an
That's
insane
exactly
It's not even, that's
number.
overrepresenting even the overrepresentation that's in LA.
Which is
like
21%.
20-something%, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 21% of people that work in Hollywood identify as LGBTQIA+.
That's insane.
That's insane. And it's like, and then people wonder why they turn out, like, I have normie friends now who like hit me up and they're like, why is everything gay? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
like, they're not saying it in a mean way. They're saying it like they wonder why, to them, they weren't paying attention when this stuff started a decade ago. They're just noticing it now, and they're like, why? Like, they're like, it just seems so over the top. Like, I have friends that are gay, but I don't know that many gay people, and I'm just like, I could answer that, but it would take all night. And it would be hours of going back to, like, I was like, can you talk about Gamergate? We could go all the way back to Gamergate and then get into Ghostbusters 2016 and go into everything that's happened.
You have your PowerPoint presentation ready
to show that, like, you pull out the thing, the pointer that you pull it out like this.
Oh my
and
gosh.
like this.
Wait, so in 2020 it was 45.6% LGBTQ leads?
Yep.
Almost half?
The scariest thing about this entire survey, and I'm not kidding you, the scariest thing about this is when the people that work for the initiative are talking about it, they talk about it like they've actually done good work. That should scare everybody, because no matter how much progress groups like this make, their only response is always, there's more work to do. Mm-hmm. So if they're not even saying that, they must have really done a lot. If they're not even giving you the there's more work to do speech, which is usually what they're saying. You could be like, well, we've made 90% of the movies women, and the 10% that are men are drag queens. And they're like, there's still more work to do. There's at least one guy on those sets. We just know it, and we got to get rid of him.
It's so overexposed, and then the LGBTQ plus alphabet community, they get so mad when you say it's being shoved down people's throats. It's like, you can't look at these statistics and say otherwise. It's so disproportionate to the actual representation that there is in the community, in the country.
Yeah.
And then when you look at like the stats for the men, especially in film, part of why I feel like there is a decline going on men being the leads of films is because how many stories can you write about the men when there's constantly attack on masculinity? The media doesn't like strong men anymore, so they don't want these strong male roles. Everything is about her story and making strong women, so you can't have a captivating story about men if you can't have a strong men. Nobody wants to see these weak men leading the movies.
Why do you think Pedro Pascal is getting all the attention now?
Because he's safe.
Because he's a soy boy.
But like, you can have a story about a strong man. It just has to be played by a woman.
Right.
That's the problem. Like, it just can't be actually played by a dude, and he can't look masculine in any way, shape, or form. You get the people that are literally grandfathered, for lack of a better term, into this, like Arnie and Stallone, who's still like, my favorite part, we were talking about it yesterday, is like when watching Tulsa King, that he's just, it should embarrass all the other men in Hollywood how much better shape Stallone is still in compared to all the guys that are in the show with him. And there's this storyline in it where Andrea Savage's character sleeps with Sylvester Stallone, then finds out he's 72 and is like retroactively grossed out by the fact that he's old, but because he doesn't look old, he's like, he's got his HGH and he's got his okay, I don't know if that's for sure, I would guess, but that's like, if you want to have strong masculine male characters, you have to go back and use older actors. Alan Ritchson did it in Reacher. He's tall, he's masculine, and it was so revelatory to me that I went on about it for weeks. I'm like, how did this get made? Were like all of the executives out sick this week? How did they allow this to get made in an industry that doesn't allow strong masculine stories to be told anymore? And for this, look, for Netflix, it might be a little bit different because I think it caters to the audience that they're looking for there. But when it goes to multiple platforms, you have to start wondering like how much these inclusion initiatives, which are really designed to cause change by scaring these studios, by saying like, look, if you don't make changes to your policies, if you don't start hiring these people, we're going to write articles about you. We're going to tell everyone that you're not inclusive. Like, I used to wonder, how much do these articles actually mean? They clearly matter. Like, they clearly matter, because I don't know if all of the tax breaks we've talked about that are put into place for stuff like this, I think they really do want to change the culture. And I think they want to change a culture in a way that they want. Like yesterday we were discussing whether we've always had that debate, like, do video games cause violence? And people will say, no, video games don't cause violence. I say, then why do so many conservatives get upset or fear that putting gay characters on screen is going to turn their kids gay? And people said they don't actually fear that. I go, no. There are people that actually talk about that in comment sections that say, like, they're worried that the overexposure of that material is going to affect how their kids see things and could confuse them. So that's a fair thing to ask. Like, are they looking to change the culture by doing that?
I think there's a difference though, because I mean, even with the video games, like there's always, like, again, we talked about earlier, like screen time, like that does matter.
That matters.
But when you're watching like a video game character, like not only is it very clearly just like a video game, but it's like an activity. But when it comes to kids specifically watching characters on TV, a lot of the times you start to emulate these different actors and actresses that you actually admire. Like, there's so many times where to this day I will reference Flava Flav, or I'll reference Tiffany Pollard, or all these different characters that I grew up watching. So there is a difference there between just a shoot 'em up video game and actually watching the characters, seeing their stories, relating to them, and like some of these characters stay in your head rent free.
Yeah. I also want to point out, like, we've talked plenty of times that the people at Disney have said point blank they want to change. The lady who says that she wants to include as many of these stories as possible to affect the culture.
On the video game topic, I think that we are going to see a shift in like how people view that with like violent video games specifically. My take has always been that I think violent video games might be a problem only in that it makes the player believe that they are like blowing off steam or like letting out stress or something like that is pent up, but they aren't actually, and it's more so exacerbating the stress by simulating violence, when in reality you would let out pent up aggression by actually doing something with your body, like hunting or fighting or like real violence. So if anything, we need more real life violence, but in controlled environments for boys.
Go to the shooting range.
Shooting, hunting, boxing, wrestling.
Mary chooses violence.
Well, right, like I think like boys need more controlled environments for violence that are like allowed and safe for them.
I mean, it's already
and not vilified.
It's already kind of proven that like schools are designed for women. That the school system
exactly
is designed
like
for women. It's a disadvantage to boys.
But we know that media affects our beliefs and our behavior. The media we consume, it does change, especially impressionable children's beliefs and behaviors.
And a lot of this also, like they talk about 26% of women behind the camera. Like, look, people go into different fields. If tomorrow I went out and 30% of the people working on hair were men, it would be different, right? Like if you went to a salon, would you expect to see 30% of the hairstylists be men?
Yes, because they're gay.
Okay, but in this industry, so they're saying 30, so that would be them saying that makes more sense, right? So they're saying that number needs to be higher. Do we need 50% of the hairstylists to be men?
It's funny, nobody talks about like an overrepresentation of like gay men in fashion.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that.
Well, like, but in general, right? Like, so we wouldn't expect these numbers because people choose different careers. Like, is it still true? I don't
People
even know anymore that women go into nursing and men go in to be doctors and surgeons on average more often.
Sure.
Right? Like, so actors and actresses, people behind the camera, more men are going to go into work as directors and women go into different aspects of the film industry. They're not necessarily going to want to be a director. They might be interested in a different part of the art form.
But what you're saying is logical and not emotional.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is the same reason that girls are getting funneled into STEM.
Yeah.
When they're not genuinely interested.
That's some of my favorite Hollywood propaganda is the women in STEM. That like,
if you put people in like astrophysics who are not interested in it or smart enough for it, people will die.
There's all the things there. It's just like I can't wait for the air, like for all of the airlines once we have those quotas in place, and we're gonna have to like go down with the plane. Like, well, I'm so glad it was a diverse plane ride as you're crashing into the
so glad that
the ocean.
The air traffic controllers were majority minority.
Well, there's that ad. But what was the other thing? I had another thing that I was going to bring up here, and it was important in the moment, and now I seem to have forgotten what I was going to say. I hate it when that happens. Oh yeah, I didn't even need a super chat to interrupt it there. But for this discussion, I just think it's going to be one of those things that eventually will even back out. It seems like whenever something happens and one of these things pushes towards one end or the other, it seems like then 2 years go by and it kind of trickles back to the middle, and then there's another push and it goes back up and then it trickles back to the middle. It's going to be a matter of like where the stories go. Like
it's never been this extreme though.
No, this is
so
about
I don't
as
expect that actually.
I think I don't think it's going to ever go back to the way it was, but I think we'll end up somewhere back towards the middle. There's a $20 one right there. Okay, go for it. And then I remembered I was going to say, damn it. Just took me
Hold on.
second.
Disco Jensen said propaganda has been proven to work and the powers that be are without a doubt using it. Companies only recently figured out how to use games as propaganda. Another 5 to 10 years and all games will be.
Yep. Like speaking of the propaganda, that's like the women in STEM propaganda in Hollywood is some of my favorite because it's always so ham-fisted. There's this show that I love. It was called The Librarians, starring Rebecca Romaine and Christian Kane. And they have this one random episode where it's like they go to a STEM fair. It's based on an old movie series called The Librarian. And they go to a STEM fair, and it's all about women in STEM because they have like this one character in the show who has like a brain tumor, so she can like see numbers, and that's like her thing. And she's really into math and science, so she's basically has an orgasm when she realizes she's at like a STEM fair. And you're like, this is so ridiculous and so over the top, but they need to push it. They need to push these narratives.
Yeah, and that just feels like they hate women and what women are interested in.
Well, what story are they going to tell otherwise? Like, what would be a story they would tell about things that women are interested in?
Unrelated, but like, did you guys see this video that recently went viral? There was this dad who, I think he's from the UK, a random woman came over to his house, knocked on his door, and started berating him because he dresses his 2-year-old daughter in pink outfits too often. What? This woman is like harassing him on his doorstep, saying like, you know, you're going to confuse her about her choosing her gender identity because she's going to feel like she has to wear pink, and you need to let her wear a diversity of colors. And he was like, I'm kind of confused why you're at my door right now. Like, why do you think this is any of your business? And that's like, I think just underneath it all, wanting to neutralize femininity.
Yeah. And a culture where people think that everything is their business when it's very clearly not their business.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what? Like what possesses
it almost
somebody
seemed
to do
fake,
that?
but like it had to be real, right?
Must
like,
have been.
The fact that they even had the comfortability to approach this man about how he's raising his daughter in a way that pretty much everyone in the last 100, maybe 200 years has raised their daughter to like pink if they want to wear pink. That's so insane how there's that attack. And it reminds me, was it I want to say it was Amber Rose and someone else that's delusional. We're talking about how they didn't want their little boy to play with trucks too often, so to balance out the trucks, they started buying their son's like tea sets and fairy stuff and girly things so that the son would lean towards the trucks. But since the son kept going back to the trucks, they took the trucks away.
Yeah. Or like hid them under the bed or something like that.
Yeah.
That was like
psychotic.
Basically, like they're saying like, well, we tried to not make him pick his gender identity, and he just kept going towards things that boys like. And they're like, yeah, shocking how that happens, right? Like that boys will be boys.
So what was this new Netflix series where they race swapped a princess?
Cleopatra.
I mean that too, but
there was a different one. She's in the cover photo for this article.
I don't know.
Like
Queen
Charlotte. No, yeah, Queen Charlotte. Why did they do that?
I mean,
has that come out yet?
I don't think so. Like that stuff doesn't even, like, when I see that stuff anymore. We talked about Cleopatra, we talked about Anne Boleyn. I'm just like, whatever. Like it's gonna keep happening. I just really want them to do it the other way just once. Do the thing where they make the Obama movie with Ryan Gosling and all is forgiven. If you do the Ryan Gosling Obama movie, it's fine. And you know what? If you do that, you can make you can leave. Who is his vice president? Who's vice president?
Biden.
Biden, yeah, right. We can have Biden be black.
Dark
in that.
Brandon.
So we'll swap.
We don't
them.
want him.
Well,
he'll be actually Dark Brandon.
Yeah. Like we'll swap them in this one, right? And we'll do that, and then we can go back and we can make George W. Bush black because Kanye said that he doesn't care about black people, so that we could do that.
Kanye said that about George Bush. Yeah.
I was one of the few like conservative leaning people online that wasn't initially appalled by when they made Ariel black, because how I looked at it was like, okay, this is a fictional character. It's literally a mermaid. Like, it doesn't change the story. As long as they don't make the movie woke, then I didn't personally think it was that big of a deal, because I thought it was different if like your race has like a relevant aspect to the character. But then I ended up, of course, saying they're now going to make the story woke, and then this continues to happen, and now I'm like embarrassed that I even initially defended a black Ariel who I genuinely thought was just hired because of her talent.
She's talented. That's
it's because you can't assume goodwill anymore.
No, back in the day when this would happen, if it's Samuel L. Jackson or it's Denzel Washington, you know they're talented, so you understand where that's coming from. Plus, they have star power, so you're like, look, they're gonna drive box office sales, so there's goodwill there. There's always been goodwill there for those actors. New faces aren't going to attract that same level of goodwill. Also, I had this earlier. I didn't end up talking about it. The opening weekend box office projections for The Little Mermaid are like 110 million, and it's like a 4-day Memorial Day weekend, which is atrocious. Like they had to, like, the propaganda on this article were like, it's gonna do backflips over Memorial Day weekend for 110 million dollars, and they're like, it's gonna be one of the top 8 openings from Disney. I'm like, you can't even list top 5 and you're calling that great? That's not great.
Frozen and Frozen 2 are still at the very top, right?
Could be. In this one, they say the top. Oh, I
think I saw this thread that said like Disney princess movies have always been
for live action. The top opening is The Lion King.
Oh, really?
For the live action remakes.
Gosh.
Yeah, and I think
I don't remember that being
Aladdin
well
might have been
liked.
second. Well, no, well, yeah, because
People
it was,
hated that.
Yeah.
it was creepy.
Yeah.
It was creepy looking. Like I laughed when he falls off the cliff. I was laughing because it's there's no emotion on his face.
It's an animal.
It's just an animal. I'm just like, I feel like the eye should go wide and it just doesn't. And I'm just like, I had like a nervous giggle. Like I was like, this is weird. Like. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.